Travel by California here in San Fernando, going for the natural hat trick. That's our third straight ride of Send It is going up to May and Kagel Canyons. Now, we've covered May before, and it's actually climbable on a road bike. Going down is a little tricky because there's a lot of people and it's a little rugged, but at the top, it takes you up to Camp 9, which I consider one of LA's cycling landmarks. After that, more climbing, but then it'll take us to the rugged Kagel Canyon, which you're definitely gonna need 40s or more. Once again, we'll be back here. I think you know what's gonna happen. Let's roll. It's hard to give instructions and to film an intro, but this was another resilient crew heading north into the heart of San Fernando, and all smiles for the start. We made our way towards the other side of the 210, which is deceptively climby once you cross under, rolling by El Carrizo Golf Course, and into some punchy side streets as we soon entered Veterans Memorial Community Park and their disc golf complex, taking a brief pause to buckle in, and also an early bathroom break is always welcome, with the sturdy May Canyon climb just ahead of us at just under 5 miles, averaging a deceptive 7.4%. We split into two groups to handle this big effort, with the potent group taking a longer loop around the park, with a little bonus dirt option, giving us a steepish section you had to really grip in, but shortly exit us onto pavement, where our big climb would begin. The good news is no one followed the hikers up the sand wall, but the first mile of May Canyon doesn't feel too different, as it averages over 10% for the span, with plenty of real estate into the teens, with these short quote-unquote dips letting you ease up, but taking an even longer breather is acceptable, as you still have a lot of work in front of you, even though looking back questions what progress means to you, with the windiness keeping you in a lurch as to when it all lets up, all the way until you get open views and grade abatement at the same time. From here, May Canyon takes broad sweeping strokes along the hillside, with the slope now averaging in the mid-6s, but while this shows up on most maps as a paved route, every year it becomes less of one, because dirt becomes more prominent without a maintenance schedule. But calling it a road ride isn't a stretch, as this climb is doable for any type of bike, but I'm against going down it with all the hikers around. May Canyon never seems to let up. Is that a smile? Okay, good. But also the atmospheric conditions added literally another layer to this ride. The May Canyon isn't giving us May weather. Right now it's a lot more hazy, which I guess, yeah, May haze does make sense. Lights weren't a bad idea, on top of having long sleeves or additional layers, but it looked like the group was coming all back together, which was hard to tell looking off into the distance, but there were reassurances we didn't have ghosts out there, and if you're able to make out some of the forest out there, it meant we were at the top, where it was time to document and assess this achievement. Thoughts on the climb?
Nice and easy, baby.
Why was your head shaking sideways, not up and down?
Opposite day.
This paradox continued taking the spur on the Santa Clara Truck Trail, which is 1.5 miles of fun and roadie friendly, except for this guy. But this was a pretty unique morning, as you're more likely to come up with smog than clouds in your lungs, as it's a welcome transformation, because celestial opportunities like these are few and far between. It was hard to identify how many strokes left until we hit Camp 9, with only vague signals around and not a lot of visuals to help. But enough cyclists emerged to realize we were in the right spot.
We're missing some of the usual views up here, but it's a good excuse to come back.
I put Camp 9 as one of the must-do spots in LA, as it's a big destination for bikers like Mount Wilson or the Nike base, but the water fountain is known for intricacies of its own, with a joke being on me where I place my bike, but at least the fire makes you feel like you're getting concierge service. Leaving, it was still play misty for me, as now the Santa Clara truck trail is an open road, but you still have to be extra careful going down, with its forming cracks of regularity. And while it was 4 miles down to Little Tujunga, we didn't completely blast our way down, as when we announced this ride in late April, John Reynoso, a leader in the cycling community affectionately known as Panda, lost his life along this road later that week, as we placed a ghost bike days later and stopped to pay our respects. It was a somber rollout, but gravity has a way of setting the tone, as it's real short work making it down along where the sand fire took place in 2016. Turning onto Little Tujunga continued our downhill trend, which was part of the Tour of California right before said fire, but rolling in the opposite direction, meaning we were having a lot more fun on this section. Thank you very much. The road flattens out for a handful of minutes, leading you back into climbing mode. And while the numbers behind this climb aren't horrifying, this 1.5 mile ascent always seems to hit you at the wrong time, totally sucking up all your momentum and having the tougher part of the climb front loaded, as the upper third eases up a bit with sweeping curves at a more social pace and some good viewing spots. The gate to Kagel Canyon is right off the peak, putting into the right frame of mind with some light climbing, followed by a nice decline that speeds up exponentially with some different surface treatment that might take some negotiating, allowing you to pick up speed because, oh no. See, at this point, everyone has the same realization, asking ourselves, why are we going up? And haven't we already done a couple of big climbs? As it's 3/4 mile at 10%. With views like these behind you, you'll likely miss with your head down, as it's quite the slog bullying your way up, making it smile-worthy reaching the top. It's a good thing the group waited when it flattened out, because Kagel continues indiscriminately to the left. As I should know, this section is definitely the loosest, because I plotted it out. And leading the group in a canary in a coal mine fashion, I leaned towards tempering my speeds, as I soon gave the front suspension crew VIP access, watching them drift out to the horizon, with the rest of us trying to manage, as it looked like, poof, they just vanished. But overall, this mile section is very paddable if you're riding 40s and above. Here, it's clear no tire width would get you over this bridge, as it's rickety enough not to chance it. But while the surface is a bit sloshy from here, it does smooth out significantly soon. And while there's a little more climbing mixed in, the profile's more like exaggerated rollers you just punch through, with a good flow overall, which is surprises you on why Strava's heat map, with all the fun out here, does Kagel Canyon show up so cold? Approaching the cistern was a significant moment, as it meant the end of climbing for the day, meaning we had another 1.5 miles left of dirt. And if your assumption that it was in the downward direction, you'd be 100% right. But unfortunately, you'd be right that my front camera crapped out with 1 mile left. But I had to throw in some footage from the week before to show the work Forest Volunteer Jim did to clear out the path, as we were clearly the beneficiaries, whether we were out here to shred or enjoy these rural overtures above the urban sprawl. It was Grupo Compacto waiting for some lost souls and tire punctures at the bottom. But we quickly exited out to Lopez Canyon, which is a descent that'll give you problems if you're like me with sensitive ears that like to pop, as the flattening out signaled the last couple of miles, which of course brings smiles, taking us back to the holy trinity of beer, bikes, and tacos. And let's add these to the list. Third time's the charm. It's funny how, even though only about a quarter of this ride was off-road, how you would consider a gravel ride. I mean, every time we touched dirt, might have been a little bit more of an effort, so that probably had a big part of it. Anyways, we've been loving our rides out of here, and you'll see more of this soon. If you'd like to support us, just hit the subscribe button here, or go to our store, or Patreon, so we can bring you more. Cars going by from the state of dirt.